operation with outside storage. And the applicant asked for an extension last year and was granted a one-year extension that expires on May 27th. The code allows staff to approve a one-year extension, but any further extensions need to come back through the Planning Commission and City Council. Next slide. The applicant must demonstrate good faith attempt to utilize the site plan and conditional use permit approvals. They have been working with us to revise the plans to comply with the conditions of approval. We met with them last week and talked about the outstanding conditions. They brought revised plans in and have some additional work to do, but they are actively working to meet the conditions of the approval. Next slide. And for the new commissioner, this is outside storage, so they are adding this hatched area is a large outside storage area behind the existing barns. There's a paved front zone, and then the back is gravel, and then there's landscaping and fencing to screen that outside storage. The existing house is being upgraded and modified to be an office building for this business. Next slide. Staff does recommend approval of the draft resolution granting a second one-year extension for the approvals granted in Resolution 2021-50. And again, the resolution notes that no business operations, including storage of equipment, are permitted on site until all conditions of approval have been met.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Just noting that there is no one here in person. Do we have anyone online?
Mr. Chair, I hate to interrupt, it actually is not a public hearing. We could take public comment if you'd like.
Sure, I'd be open to public comments.
Okay, members of the public online, if you would like to make a comment regarding the extension for the T. Sherber CUP, please raise your hand now. And we do have Mr. Jacobs raising his hand at this time. Thank you, Councilor Varenkamp.
Hello.
You have the floor, sir.
You know, obviously, if you haven't been able to tell, I kind of missed this stuff. You know, I was never short of words or comments. But
I thought about a month ago to lose your phone number, but I didn't. So,
so I certainly remember this project well. I remember the applicants being super positive and telling us how great this was going to be, and we've granted this conditional use permit and stuff. And in looking at the presentation, I only have one question. To say that they're actively working on it, good. But what was wrong with the original plan that has caused the delay? I'd just be curious to know, because if they're trying to change the plan now, well then, where's their hardship? So that's all I have. Thank you.
thanks, Dean.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There are no changes to the plan being proposed, but the conditions of approval, if you recall, require that they address stormwater management issues. There was a significant comments from the city engineer. That's really the big thing is I just think they didn't get after it for whatever reasons. They were running their business. They didn't do that, but they are now working with the engineer. They've brought in revised plans, met with engineering. They provided a revised landscape plan. We provided comments on that revised landscape plan. They're making some changes. So I think they're actively moving. They aren't proposing to change anything, simply to revise the plans to comply with the conditions of approval from 2021.
Okay, thank you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, they just didn't get to it? Okay.
I understand.
That's all I need to hear. I'd like to make a motion to deny the application. Can I get a second?
May I ask No, because we have a motion out there, right? So we have to, okay.
I will withdraw my motion, and I would eagerly listen to your comments.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your like your position right now. And I guess I would be curious why you would be unwilling to, like, why you would recommend that it wouldn't be extended.
Sure.
Just more comments.
My thinking is, if there was a legitimate reason for the extension, I would support it. For example, I was out of work. I can't get people over here to do the work I need. I have financing issues. Okay, I get that. But when I hear, it just didn't get to it. It doesn't seem to me to be urgent. And the courtesy of one extension has already been given. And I just think that when you make these requests, you should act on them and not just, yeah, stuff happened, I didn't get to it. You know, so I was hoping tonight that the applicant would have attended and would have explained to us why. All I wanted to hear was one legitimate reason. I was out of work, financing fell through, couldn't get people, whatever it is, bad weather, whatever it was. But I have nothing other than, well, just didn't get around to it. And that concerns me.
Thank you. May I ask a question? If it were to be denied by council, because we're just making a recommendation, so say it were to be, the applicant would be required to reapply for a CUP, is that the process? And then pay fees associated with that. That's one part of my question, but I'll give my other part, and then you could answer them both. Is there any negative impact in extending it an additional year from like a city standpoint or anything like that? Those are my two questions.
So the applicant has until May 27th to revise the plans and start construction. So they have 6 weeks or so under the current approval to get it done. If they don't, it would expire and they would have to reapply for a conditional, the same thing they applied for before. And from a city perspective, you know, again, it just means that this business doesn't move into this site potentially, I think would be a potential downside for the city. But they did not, you have their narrative, they did not give a reason why they did not proceed, they just said they needed another year. I can't offer any more, I was hoping they would be here as well.
It doesn't seem to be a priority, and it hasn't been a priority for the applicant for at least 2 years, and that's my concern.
If I could make a comment, Chair, I tend to agree, and I'm not sure if this language was in the prior extension recommendation from the staff or analysis, but, you know, in making the determination for an extension, the applicant must demonstrate a good faith attempt to utilize the site plan approval. And I just, you know, without demonstrated evidence of good faith, it's difficult to approve the extension.
Well, with that, I'm going to make a motion to deny the application. Can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye, or nay.
Okay. The denial passes. Okay, moving on to other business, am I correct? And
We have none, so we can just usually
Okay,
just-
so we have no other business. Planning project update, is there anything?
Mr. Chair, I'll just add, in addition to the updates provided in the packet, for May, I am working on figuring out how to get you all access to a very quick training module from the League of Minnesota Cities that just kind of goes over some real basics, but I did it today, it was real quick. I just don't know how to get you guys to do it because you have to log in, so I'll have to work with the city administrator. So be on the lookout for a link. I think it'll take you 15 minutes, and I think it's a nice refresher. So then next month in May, we at this time are anticipating potentially one public hearing, and then we can go over any questions. I figured we could also maybe do a deep dive into our comprehensive plan land use map, and then also go over homeowner associations, because that was one of the topics we identified last year we wanted to discuss. And so that's the May agenda at this time.
Okay, so one public hearing
At this time, one public hearing
so
is
far?
anticipated.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, that's good for planning purposes, thank you. Well, it says here, Council Liaison Schultz. Welcome, Commissioner Behrenkamp.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
It's been an interesting few months here. I know you guys have done an awful lot of hard work on some recent projects and stuff, and there's changes in the wind out there. Welcome again,
Thank you.
Council, or Chair, excuse me, Commissioner Jacob. It's nice to see.
Retrain yourself.
And you're gonna have to have a conversation with your dad. It's just, he needs to retire. No. His input has been very welcome, and I love the conversation this evening on that ordinance and such. That has been a long piece of work in process, and I think the council believed it was time for you guys to chime in and give us some information. And great information, great documentation. Kendra, thank you for doing what you did. Probably the biggest thing, and Natalie, Kendra, tell me if I'm getting out of line. Corcoran Farms is unknown right now. I know more specific things, but there may be an opportunity in the future to revisit that as something else. The one that probably sticks in my craw the most is Cook Lake Highland. Don't know if you guys have listened to the council, but the applicant came back to us with wanted to revise the PUD
The amendment, yes.
and change it from an adult residential community, multiple flats, those kind of things, to a 55 and older rental unit. The memory care has backed out. Those kind of things. Am I talking too much?
There's been some changes, so I'll just add that we have received a PUD amendment application that will go to council.
Okay.
And they've done a lot of work in trying to reach out, and at this time, the memory care is a part of it. So.
Okay, so things are changing, things are better. The biggest thing that I wanted to say was they actually purchased, or there is an agreement related to that open space, used to be used as parking lot for the rodeo. That is part of this plan, and a resubmittal or a revised PUD was needed, and that's what's going on. So if I said something online, I apologize, but there's an opportunity that we wanted it to absolutely go back to you, and with that addition of those 3 acres or whatever. Is that not part of it? No, either?
There's been a lot of updates.
Is that coming
Here's what I
back
would
to us
say.
or just the
You
council?
should look at the council agenda for April 27th.
There you go. A lot of things going on in the city, and pay attention. A good one, a really neat conversation about a concept related to the intersection of County Road 30 and 116 is out there. You saw one of the pictures this evening on the buffer. That is an interesting opportunity for us as a city. for that group, and everybody's opinion matters in my mind. In my opinion, I think it would be a pretty okay thing, but I want to see more of it as far as that whole element of, can I say, medical buildings, apartments, assisted living, memory care, 55 and older, a lot of things going on that 51 acres around Hope Church. A couple other things that I think are highlights in my mind. We purchased the land next to Hope Church for the water tower. We also approved the water tower, beginning of the construction of the water treatment, which is on the other side of 116, and the water tower to the tune of, was 19 million all the way to 21 million. We were insured that the purchase or that construction, those kind of things, if no further construction happened and everything stayed stagnant, we'd still be able to pay off that thing without having to increase related property taxes and those kind of things, if I'm saying it right. How am I doing, Kendra?
Yep.
Natalie? Okay.
Could I ask you something?
Please, jeepers.
So, I attended just the first few, I had a scheduling conflict at the
Yep, I
last city
remember.
council meeting, and I wanted to attend the whole thing.
Yeah,
But, the first application that was in front of you, it was more, and it wasn't really an application, it was looking to get first, get some feedback from city council. Natalie, which project? I'm drawing a blank.
Amira Village, it was a concept plan.
Okay, so on the concept plan, and
yeah,
they came and they
Oh,
wanted feedback from
Yep.
from city council.
yep. And that's next to Cook Lake Highlands and behind M&I, or west of M&I. Yes.
So they came to get some feedback
Yes.
from city council.
Yes,
I had never heard of this project before.
it isn't a project
Maybe,
yet, it's
well,
still a concept. They wanted to know what
my,
they put to it.
I guess my feedback for the council is, I would suggest that those types of requests come through the planning commission first, and here's why.
Go ahead,
Okay?
I'll explain.
Here's why. Number one, it takes stuff off your plate. But I think more importantly, number two is if the city council gives feedback to an applicant and they follow that, you better approve that. If they
Yeah.
if they follow your recommendations, it's considered estoppel, and they're gonna rely on your feedback to push forward. And if it gets
I don't think we made
denied-
any recommendations. They
Well,
asked.
what I'm saying is big picture. I'm not talking about this specific. I'm using it
Okay.
simply as an
Yep.
example. I just think when a potential applicant is looking for feedback, I'm concerned that if they go right to city council and city council gives feedback, council is now locked into that application if they follow your recommendation.
There was no application, and Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong, they were coming out saying, we have this idea, what do you think? I think it's something that has happened in the past, and I think there was undue costs involved, that it ended up getting too far down the road, if it's something the council didn't like the idea. If you would've hung around a little bit, the size of the lot widths, do we like the idea of it being all rental or for sale homes? All of those things, we all gave our opinion, we didn't agree across the board, we were giving them feedback. Am I saying that right? So it's a way for them to entertain an hour of our time without having to put any money in a pot yet.
Well, there,
What do we think? So Natalie, you can say more about that one.
I apologize. There is money, there is an application fee and an escrow, but it's a lot less than what they have to submit at a preliminary. All PUDs are required to go through the sketch plan process. And that is specifically the idea. I always say in the staff report, we make it clear that it's non-binding, and usually they do get a mixed bag of feedback, so there really isn't like a clear direction, like if you do this, this, and this, we'll approve it. There's
Yeah.
usually, like Counselor Schultz,
Okay.
like did not want to make a statement on whether or not he would approve rentals, and so there's usually not very, like, there's usually things we can take from it as staff and be like, I think you need to do this, this, and this to get a better chance. But with PUDs, because of the discretion and negotiation, this is just like the first stage to kind of set the table for that, and so that we understand how to negotiate with the developer to continue working through things. But yeah, I would say that this is a fairly typical process. The city attorney is aware that we have this as a concept, and we're not the only city that has this process. Because there's a lot of times PUDs or things that we recommend go through a sketch plan, there's some type of discretion or policy question being asked that while the planning commission feedback is helpful, we don't want them to spend any more time until we have some kind of indication of whether there's any support for it. Because if the answer is outright, no, we will not support this, that will stop a project in its tracks that would have required some buy-in. And we saw that with a concept plan off of County Road 30. The resounding feedback from council was that, no, we would not approve this because we didn't want to move away from our mixed-use district at that time because they wanted to just do residential. And so that project has disappeared at this point. So
That one went along, I thought, really well. It was up by Mama G's, and it was a section of, like, almost like a gated community kind of deal, and then some residential, and we just weren't in favor of that.
It's
at all.
really more to understand if it's an outright no.
I
And then-
gotcha.
And then we kind
Okay.
of go from there to see what, is there a pathway forward to a yes? But really what we're trying to understand is if it's a no, please let them know now so they don't spend any more money and staff
Yeah.
time to move
Yeah.
forward.
Much better said, and I've been up there, and I've done this a long time, maybe too long too, but I don't like, how many times have the planning commission seen where they say yes, or they say no, and the council says, no, we already made the comments, and we already like this, whatever. So we wanted to give, they wanted input, we gave them a mixed bag of input on what we all thought. My biggest thing is, now when it gets to planning commission, it's a little bit more organized, it's a little bit better. Some of the questions I thought of or I had were, I think I know Mark, I think I know you a little bit, I think I know Corinne a little bit, and those kind of things, so I'm almost speaking a little bit for you. I don't want to, but I am. Lindsay, I get a pretty good idea where you live. Jay and John, I know and understand their circumstances and where they live, and we have an excellent group, a full breadth of this city now on our planning commission. And I think it's one of those things that I've said in the past, I'd really like as much input that you guys have. And if something is not to your liking, you recommend denial, but it would be what it would take for you to say, that's a good plan. That's what would like to hear, but it
I'll,
might be too much, but,
I will respectfully disagree,
okay.
because the purpose of the planning commission is to recommend or not recommend. It's not to give feedback as to how you get us to a yes. Because I think that there are certain
That's not what I was
rules
looking
that
for.
we-
It
Okay,
would, how do I want to say it?
Are there changes, slight modifications to a plan that could
Right.
make it stronger?
That could, she's way better at it than me.
right.
That's what I'm looking for. I don't want, we don't like this, we don't like this because of this, thus we're going to recommend not to approve, or recommend that the council denies it, those kind of things. I really, tonight,
I get that.
all your conversation and everything, I heard every word of it. It's been recorded. I absolutely love it. And it's all things. I'd love to try and figure out a way to transition from some of these developments going in and into a rural residential neighborhood and stuff, and try and blend it. And I like your guys'
And
comments.
I will do whatever I can to help you with
I
it.
like your comments about trying to not handcuff us. Fencing, I hate fencing too. It drives me nuts. I think of your property, Mark, and what you look out now, or what you had, and the changes on your border of your property, and now what do you have? I experienced, I'm in the country, I'm in absolutely ag property and stuff. I had 24 acres of woodlands completely removed from my property, and there was not anything anybody could do. But then I go to Corcoran and stop letting government tell people what to do with their property. I mean, if this was easy, somebody else would be doing this, you guys. And
Power to the people.
I've said it in the past.
Right on.
But your opinion very much matters, and there are 5 very cool people in this group. We've had cool people before, but all different people.
We are all different.
We are all
people.
different.
Yes.
I
I agree.
If we don't get input, and if we can't make a decisions on our council, we got something going on.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank
May-
you.
With that.
Excuse me, Chair, really quick.
You might have questions.
Well, I do, but it's only related to an update, and that is on the cropland weed control. And so I know that the city had to cease its cropland rental agreement on 2
Yes.
parcels. Yeah, and I know that there's concern because there's significant limitation with what that land could be used for. And I understand that the update says that staff is investigating long-term options for these properties. I have concern with how this cropland weed control, is it spray?
Hold on just a second. We had to stay with the 1 parcel.
I am so sorry, I don't know.
That's okay. One of the parcels, we are going to continue that rental this year, and then we will pay
To finish a
the-
contract?
We will pay, we will
Sure.
pay the taxes related to it.
Yep.
Hennepin County really.
Yeah, I know,
It's some
yeah,
things.
I know.
Your concern on weed control, we are doing everything possible not to make it chemical, those kind of things. We are trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I
I
get
mean,
that with the
our-
staff.
Our county, I mean, we thought of like community garden and all of these things, but the liabilities and all that stuff, we don't have an answer to it, but I'm one of those, the last thing I want to do is hit it with heavy chemicals, those kind of things. I mean, the farmer right now on the other property has laid fertilizer down in the fall. He's ready to plant in the spring. The other parcel, I don't think it's in the same situation, but we've got to figure out a way to do it. And it was even one of those things where myself and council member Bottom has said, we'll go and we'll mow it. We'll figure out a way, we'll mow it with our 2 tractors and do it. I mean, that's what we're thinking of, just discing it, get it nice and flat, put in prairie grass, those kind of things, and maybe mow it once in a while, or even visit the conversation about weed control and those kind of things by using controlled burns. I mean, we're thinking of a lot of different things.
Okay.
Your input, I'm listening. Put your input on record, please.
We need animal input if you're gonna regenerate the soil, because you can only grow things when the soil is alive. And so because it was used as farmland with, the traditional farmland treatments, they usually typically kill the top, that there can be death in the topsoil.
Yes.
And that is the benefit of animal integration. And so I know that there are a lot of restrictions, but if we're looking for something healthy to grow back in that area, to just be a spot of beauty, then, allow people to run their, allow people, I know there's liability, so just, we can all share our manure. We can just
I got a pile.
drop it off there
Pile I'd love
and
to get rid of.
spread it out a year or 2, And
I
then,
don't doubt
and then,
I
and then
know.
seed drill, then use a seed drill and plant some beautiful grasses. No, I mean, I understand that this is like, just an interesting situation. I am very interested in it for a number of different reasons. But I just was
Stay
curious
tuned.
with the upgrade. Yeah. Oh,
If
I
you've
will.
got input, if you've got a solution, staff would love to hear it. We would love to hear it.
Well, I made some suggestions, but I think that it's binding because of what's permitted to be on this land,
Yeah.
without requiring further.
It has been nice just having a farmer
Sure.
do it, work it, everything, get the crops off it, but then all of a sudden now Hennepin County has
Yeah.
changed and there's a huge tax implication on the profits that farmer may or may not be getting and stuff, so really mess things up.
It could be a temporary manure drop site. That's my recommendation.
And we've actually have conversations coming, a compost site here in Corcoran.
Yeah,
There's
yep,
a-
at Volras.
Possible application and stuff, but yeah, to drop manure, those kind of things, I'd love to be able to unload some if you got
Anyway,
a place for it, I can bring some over, but you can't do it there yet.
okay, that was all I had.
Good
Thank
job.
you. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I would make that motion.
Second?
Can I ask
Oh, of course.
one question, Chair? I saw
So
discrepancies.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, thanks. I saw there some discrepancies between the two different agendas, the short one and the detailed one, around the schedule for representatives at the council meeting. I was gonna
Oh.
verify which
Plenty
one
of
was
Oh,
accurate.
are there differences? I
I-
hadn't noticed that.
My name wasn't on the,
On the expanded agenda, or?
Yeah.
I would
The
refer
enhanced.
to the one that has your name on it, so we have your first meeting as a 6/8.
okay, great. That's all.
Good.
I will go back to making the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we are done. Thank you.
Well done, you guys.
Are we,
One second.